Welcome back. It is always a good day. First of all, when I wake up and then I go, okay, time to give thanks. Um, I love the days that I am privileged to record and also introduce you to another remarkable human being who also happens to be one of my very, very dearest friends on the planet. So you are in for a great time today. So definitely stick around. Just a little bit of housekeeping and business. The next room, it is about every aspect of death. And really, death is all about life, right? It's just another phase of what is next. So we talk about death, dying, grief is a huge topic. My favorite, of course, afterlife. We talk about green burial practices. We have things that we like to discuss about, wills and trusts and getting some of your affairs in order. This person I'm going to interview today is going to cover a little bit of everything. So it's really going to be interesting. First and foremost, thank you to my top cities. I just went on the back end to see who's downloading. Huntington Beach and Fullerton, California, my two top cities in California. Thank you. So cool of you. Mount Prospect and Chicago in Illinois, my two big cities in the Midwest. In Minneapolis, I love you guys. You guys kind of ebb and flow. I'll get tons of downloads and then you'll back off a week. So I'm not sure if it's that you're just downloading the things you want to, but I appreciate you listening. Let's see here. Hudsonville, Michigan. Woot, woot. Let's hear it from my home state. Hudsonville, Michigan. Thank you. Melbourne, Australia. Always glad to have my friends down under. I have a feeling Callista has something to do with that. She's a hardcore fan and a friend. Thank you, Callista, and all of you in Melbourne that are downloading the show. And the last one that just came up was Annapolis, Maryland. So thank you very much. Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, which is the new X. I'm not there a lot because it's a bunch of drama. And the new YouTube channel, which is if you're watching Kelly and I in this conversation we're going to have, that's where it's parked. And I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. So please hit that subscribe button and then everything that you need to know about this show. And if you like to watch your podcast, will be on the YouTube channel. Okay, enough of Jane. My guest today is Kelly Cole. She is undoubtedly, if you ever watched Norm on Cheers and Norm would walk into the bar at Cheers and everyone went, Norm, that's exactly what happens to this friend of mine when you're in San Diego and you walk down the street, especially if you're at a jazz event or a concert. Everyone says, Kelly, 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 Kelly Cole. It's hilarious. The first time I was with her in downtown, we were at a jazz fest, and I'm like, oh my God, you're like royalty in this town. Kelly and I worked together at KIFM, which was the jazz station, no longer exists. There was a jazz station, a country station, and an alternative. And Kelly and I were part of a team that won this, a Marconi Award, which is the highest honor that you can get for any kind of radio. So I brought mine out today in honor of Kelly joining me. Kelly Cole, welcome to the next room.
Wow. Kelly, 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 Kelly. You crack me up, Jade.
It's so true,
Yes,
though.
we have fun when we go out together, don't we?
Yes, we do. That honestly, that first time when we were walking down wherever we were on, it was all blocked off and everything. And it's the Jazz Fest and there's bands playing everywhere and all these things. And you're walking through town and I could have been carrying your cape from behind. And you didn't even think anything of it. People are reaching out and you're shaking hands and autographing and laughing with people and stopping to take pictures. It was a lot of fun. Um, so talk to me about getting into radio. Tell me a little bit about your background, or my audience about your background and how it started, because you were kind of a young thing when you decided you had to be a radio rock star.
Well, that is pretty much the balance. I was either going to be a rock star or a DJ. Personally, I can't sing or play an instrument, but I do know what good music is. And I probably got that from my father, who used to had a room, a giant room in our house with just a stereo and a chair, which meant that was his room. There was one chair, and he would listen to his music very, I wouldn't say loud. I would say enough that you felt it. And you could tell he really felt his music, and it was inspiring to me. And we always had a lot of music going on around the house. I remember watching Soul Train as a kid, and I remember a lot of music influences. The first concert I went to with my parents, I think I was like 5 years old, was Johnny Cash, June Carter, and the Carter sisters, the Statler brothers, and we were front row. And I was like, wow, sports arena, here I am. And I don't remember everything, but it did leave an impression on me. And in later years, I saw Led Zeppelin at 17, I believe. And just music oozing through you was so inspirational. And I didn't necessarily want to be on the stage, but I wanted to share that feeling with everybody and anybody who wanted to share it with me. So I got into radio. First, I went to school after my mom moved away. She got married and moved away. I was like, okay, well, see you later. Graduated from high school. And back then, that wasn't that big of a deal. And I started going to community college for broadcasting. And then financially, it just wasn't going to make it. So I took a hiatus from trying to do something else and met my late husband and did try to do the earth thing up in Washington for a minute. We were going to go live at the base of Mount Rainier and be earth people. And we lived in a teepee and built a big house as a family. And then Mount St. Helens blew. So that sort of, changed that direction. And when we came back to San Diego, and after my daughter was born, I said, I want to get back into radio. So I went to the Columbia School of Broadcasting, because you'll never know what you can do until you try. And my counselor, it didn't take long. It was a paid type of thing. He sat down with me in a room and said, okay, we're going to call every station within a 200-mile radius, and KAMP in El Centro was hiring weekends. And it was a hour and a half, 2 hour drive. And I drove out there every weekend for a year and a half.
Did you?
And I met people at the bar. And so I quit having to pay for hotel rooms. And we played the original 45s that were sent to the station. It was the hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we were in the 80s when that started. So it was quite exciting.
You know what's great about doing this show? I mean, there are many things, but here you and I are. I mean, we're good friends and we don't live too far apart, a few miles apart in the same city outside of San Diego. And I don't think I've ever asked you that question before. I mean, I didn't know. First of all, let me circle back to your dad in the big room because you painted such a cool picture of your dad with this room with his music and his chair. And, and not that it was loud, but that he felt it. So from a very early age, you knew you needed to express yourself with music, through music,
Yep.
somehow. You find your way to radio. Okay, so how many years have you been doing radio?
Oh, I guess that was probably 84, 85. Or what are we?
Yeah, we're old.
24?
That's okay. You've
Oh,
been doing it a while.
a long time. And it was so different when I started.
Right.
Literally played every element. Imagine in the in El Centro, it was an AM daytime radio station. So in the winter, because of Clear Channel, and this is stuff most people won't even have a grip on, you had to shut the AM stations down so that the main AM station, if there was an emergency, bomb threat, they would go as far as the radio signal would go. And so you had to be a clear channel to have your station on after hours. We weren't a clear channel, we were just an AM daytime station. And so we would shut the station off at night. And in the winter, you would shut off at like 5 or 6 o'clock. And I was noon to whatever shut off time was. Well, in the summer, it was 8 o'clock. So it was an 8 hour shift of playing 45s. The commercials were on carts. So you going to the bathroom
I was just going to say,
during a 45. Fortunately, we
yeah,
started playing albums
right.
that time. So I would find an album with a long track and plan it. So,
American Pie,
yeah.
the
So
bathroom song,
I would have to run
In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida.
to the
Yeah,
bathroom, but it was outside the building.
yes, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
So, but that just goes to show you how bad I really wanted to do it,
Right.
you
And how,
know?
yeah, and the passion that you had. Um, you are absolutely no stranger to death and the grief that losing a loved one happens to deliver to you. And you have to carry that with you because I don't know. I just feel like, we have this love that we have for individuals and we love them so dearly, and then they transition and leave in the physical sense, but our love doesn't die. So we carry our loved ones with us. You mentioned your husband, Steve, who passed away. How do you, or how did you at that time, because you're a young mom, you're working at a radio station nonstop, and you get this horrible news that this your beloved husband has left.
Oh, um, it's at this point, it's kind of a blur. I do remember being called out of my office, and my friend was there and my family was there, and they're like, we're so sorry, you know, Steve passed. And I said, Steve who?
Oh, jeez.
Because he was only 37. What do you mean he passed? Passed to what? You know? And then apparently the people that were there said, I just screamed and dropped to the ground. And then everything was like a giant blur because in that very moment, your entire life and course now has changed. And I know everyone has to deal with that a different way, but I don't know. I just always feel like he's still here. He's still with me. He'll always be here. And now I have to figure out uh, what to do. It was really hard because my daughter was very young at a very difficult age, 15. So, and work was very intense. I'll tell you though, work probably and the music is probably what saved me
Hmm.
because you go, they give you time off when someone passes in your family, especially something like this. And I remember sitting home and going, I think I'm going to die if I sit home one more day. I'm so bored. And I decided to get dressed and I went back to work that day. And I showed up, and my boss, Bob O'Connor, who made me his music director and his assistant program director, and I was also on the air, was sitting behind my computer in my office programming the music. And that's back when you actually program the music. We had a library, we had a grid, but I did a lot of manipulation to make the music go the way I wanted it to flow. And I'd change things up and stuff. And I could hear him cursing down the hallway as I was walking down, and I could feel his frustration. He was just so tired of having to do my job. And I poked my head around the corner and I said, Hey. And he came flying out of the chair and he said, oh my gosh, how are you? I'm so glad to see you. And then he looked at me like, he was going to have to sit back down and keep working because it really wasn't time for me to come back. And he said, "Oh, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But get the hell out of my chair. I need to work." And he hugged me a hug that I've never felt from somebody, like never had that kind of appreciation.
Mm,
And I realized I was going to be okay
wow.
because he needed me
Yeah.
and I needed that. And it was what we both needed at that
Mm.
very moment. And
Oh,
sometimes that's enough just to
yeah.
be needed.
Yeah. Kelly, this is a very, I've got like head to toe goosebumps right now. So many thoughts running through. I love what you said. The music saved me.
Yeah.
Um, and boy, when we're deep in our grief, I can, it's a testament to me too, and to other people. I know that we do go for things like that because music makes you feel all kinds of things. You listen to happy music when it's a sunny day and you're barbecuing. You listen to sad music when someone dies. Rainy day music. You listen to Prince. I mean, uh, it just depends. So I love that you're like, I cannot sit home. You're in survival mode. You
Mm-hmm.
probably were a little bit in that grief brain that people talk about. It usually is a good full year that you don't even remember what you did or how you did it. You just knew that you had to get through it because you're an employee, you're a mom, you got to put food on the table. Um,
Pay the bills.
yeah, pay the bills. Wow. I love that. What a great story. And I'm so sorry. Man, losing a loved one, 37 years of age, that's just all kinds of wrong.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, that's not the natural order, or at least what we hope is the natural order. Um, so you picked yourself up, you dove into the world of music, and I don't think you give yourself the credit that you deserve because that Marconi Award is due to your ears. You are so influential and was such a pivotal point of that radio station that the musicians loved you. I mean, people like Mindy Aber and Dave Koz, and I mean, the list goes on and on. Boney James. I mean, all those amazing artists, you had their home phone numbers. They're like talking to you because you believed in them and you gave them a stage that previously really hadn't been touched. Nobody was playing this kind of vibey, cool, what was classified back then as smooth jazz.
Before it was smooth jazz, it was a nighttime show. And I have to give Art Good a ton of credit because when I started out, I was his board op and it
Ah,
was albums that we were playing. And it was not smooth jazz, it was Lights Out San Diego. And it was 6 to midnight. And Art was on voice track, which meant he recorded the show before it aired on reel to reel. So, and Art was a bit chatty. And the songs, generally speaking, were not formatically 3.5 minutes long. Sometimes they'd be 6 minutes. Sometimes they'd be 4 minutes. Sometimes they'd be 8 minutes. And we didn't edit. We were playing them off of the album. I mean, the only edit you could do was just fade it down and go into the next song. But sometimes when he would talk too much, you would have to drop a song and then you'd have to go back into the reel to reel and edit his voice out
oh my
talking
God.
about that song because back then you talked about every song you pretty much had to because you were playing instrumental music generally speaking or even if it had vocals, these were vocalists that people were not familiar with, so we were introducing these artists to new listeners who were being inspired, almost as inspired as we were to get to find and discover all this greatness. And the show started every night with Grover Washington Jr.'s Wine Light,
Mm, mm,
probably top album I will ever remember. and so much good music from these great legendary artists. And then Dave Grusin and Larry Rosen, who put GRP records together and introduced us to Lee Ritenour and Billy
Mm,
Cobham and so many, and Brazilian music that they interpreted for the jazz. It, like I said, the music back then was so inspiring because there were not limitations on it. It wasn't formatting. It wasn't, it had to have a hook. It had to play at least 45 seconds into the song. It was, and granted, those are good things that help the industry embrace it, but it also kind of has at this point turned it into almost an outcast because not a lot of radio stations know how to deal with it because you have to have passionate people to make it
right.
work. And
Yeah.
and I I am so happy that many of those artists are still killing it, still doing great. Mindy's doing wine country tours. She's up right now with Kathy Payne and a group of people doing historic wineries in Northern California and then going to concerts afterwards. They have turned it into a whole new, truly musical experience, not just we're listening to it on the radio. But
Mm,
I don't want to see radio go away either. It's
sure.
very heartbreaking, but it's
Yeah.
also, what it is. You cannot, like I said, it's not dying, it's transitioning.
Oh, good.
And you hang
Yes.
on to what radio used to do and do the best you can with what you learned how to do. That's pretty much what I'm doing now.
I love that. That's a really succinct way to put it. You know, you want to hang on to what worked, but also it's this transition time where we're reinventing. I think with, you know, things like podcasts and, I mean, my dream would be to have Kelly Cole Lights Out on an international platform like a podcast where people could hear it in all of these other countries. I mean, I see you and feel you doing that. I think it's so important because you were blazing a trail when there was no trail. You know, you were really leading the pack with this entire movement. And here you are still in love with radio. You don't bag on it. You're still professional about it and still on the air here in San Diego County. My goodness. I mean, that's really cool. So let's just help that manifest because I think that needs to happen. I think it's necessary. All of those artists that you're mentioning in that brilliant music, it really is music. It's not cramming a formula into 3.5 minute song,
Yep.
and in kitschy lyrics. It's really about the saxophone and the keyboard and the bass and all how it was blended and made to happen. I mean, I got such a great appreciation for that music by and through meeting you. I would never have known half of the musicians. I mean, like Michael Linton. I mean,
Oh.
he's just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this brilliant saxophone player existed, and he was easy on the eyes. I remember my mom like absolutely digging him. We were on a jazz cruise, I think, back in the day, and my folks went on the cruise with us, and oh my God, my folks love music. And they fell in love with him and got to meet him and got pictures taken with him and bought all of his CDs. It was really cute. Yeah. Just
Well, I
great.
also I also have to give credit to Scott Pedersen,
Oh,
who
okay.
was monumental in giving interesting and fun ways to promote the artists like the jazz cruises. I remember when they first start and the anniversary festival and all the hard work that went into putting those things together. I remember when we did the anniversary festival and I was the music director and I had to book artists into like 20 clubs downtown San Diego. And most of them at the time, their record label would just pay for them to come and play just to get the exposure. Chris Botti was in one of the clubs. Dave Koz was in one of the clubs. Like you said, all these artists who are now big stars were just getting exposure and getting out there. And Scott really helped many of these artists get their start just because they would come up with these creative, amazing ways to promote and to make the live experience, which was to me as important as the radio exposure. The
Hmm.
live experience with these artists truly could change the course. Dave Koz is the best example of that. He is now a mega artist. Mindy Aber, another perfect example. I remember Chris Botti touring with Sting
Hmm.
and getting to go backstage at the Sting concert because Chris was his trumpet player. And it was like, wow. This, and again, the live experience, honestly, especially with jazz, uh, is something that is truly memorable for most audiences that see these guys play and feel and hear their passion live.
Hmm.
Because radio, you feel it, you hear it when you play the records and stuff, but when you see it live, it leaves a true musical tattoo in your mind, you know. It's
Hmm.
something you can never take away. Anybody who did this the Gaslamp Quarter Jazz Festival with us will tell you that. That was an experience that can't be duplicated. And not to compare it to something, but Woodstock was a, you know, anybody who went to Woodstock will tell you there will never be anything like that. You can try, but it's an experience that you had to be there, you know?
Right. Wow. A musical tattoo gave me another great visual. So cool. Um, let's talk about things that have happened recently. You've had two different experiences. And if you're not comfortable talking about them, that's fine. Just tell me. I don't want to really go there. But you had a beloved aunt pass, and you had to take care of things. You had to take care of her and also all of her affairs. Um, how did you handle that?
Well, I loved when you started out talking about trusts and things like that because Donna first got a little out of the box, we'll say. And she was found at a McDonald's in her underwear screaming at people.
Oh boy.
And her neighbor called me and said, "Hey, you're going to have to come up and help your aunt. She's getting to the point where she can't take care of herself anymore." I had no idea. I didn't really even remember being her trust person because at first it was my dad's wife, and then my dad passed away, and then they got in a fight, and she changed it to me.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I went up and I you know I tried to help her, and then they literally said, "You have to find a place to put her." So I did. I found a place, but then the place that I put her said she can't stay here. She's running the halls screaming at people, and you got to get her 24-hour care. And I was like, I had no idea how this stuff. So I found her a place right by the house. But all I kept thinking was, Donna was like one of the strongest women I have ever known in my life. She had everything she did, everything she wanted to do, but she never really had any family that she was really, really close to. You know, she took care of herself. So I all I can imagine was here she is waking up somewhere. Where am I? What am I doing here? Where's all my stuff? How did this happen to me? And the only thing she had was me coming to visit her and that comfort of apparently either my voice or the feeling she had for me over the years.
Yeah.
So
Familiarity. Yeah.
so the more lost she got, the more happy she would be. It seems like
Oh.
to see me. And I would come several times a week and I'd take her to her doctor's appointments. But this all first started happening during COVID. So she was in Artesia and I was driving up to see her in Artesia. Fortunately for me, because I was in the radio business, I could drive. I had to place I had to be because remember, they didn't want you out on the roads and they didn't want you going anywhere. So I had a license to be able to go and I got her stuff and I got it down here and then I got her down here. And the next thing things started to stabilize again. Unfortunately, you know, the place I got her was close enough and the people were so good. And it was a very small, intimate home. That's another thing. I mean, those are the kind of things that you really need to think about. And it made me focus on getting my trust together for my daughter and to make sure everything and anything that I had to go through with Donna would not happen to her. And it's also kind of got me inspired to start letting stuff go. Because, like, I ask her, hey, is anybody interested in this? Maybe somebody who is interested in this would love to have an opportunity to use this. So whether it's donating or passing it along to somebody I know or, you know, uh, collecting stuff isn't going to do anything for you when you can't use it anymore. So, it's good to pass stuff along that will be appreciated and enjoyed while it's still be able to be appreciated and enjoyed,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
The
I love
trust
that.
thing is really important. I will tell everybody and anybody who has anything that they want to leave to their kids or who they want to leave it to, or get that dialed in now. Do it. It's
Good.
it's never too soon to make sure because once you're gone, there's nothing you can do about it.
No kidding. And just circling back to going through and donating and getting rid of stuff and giving things to people that they can use that you have no longer have use for. There's a great phrase. It's called give with a warm hand. And I really love that,
Yes.
because, once you're gone.
Yep.
So I think that that's a very, very key point. Okay, another pivot. This is a deep show. That's why we're going to keep going because, because I do know you intimately, um, and you're a good friend, I know what you've been going through. So you recently had just a horrific car accident.
Yep.
Do you want to share on your
Sure.
insights? All right. If you don't, just put your hand up and say that's enough, Asher.
No, the car accident, that's something else that everyone needs to pay attention to because the healthcare industry, not to say anything bad, but you are in charge of your healthcare. You are the person that needs to be aware of what's going on in your life. And I had a seizure many years back and have been on a med for it and thought it was all under control. And then I changed healthcare providers and recently and never really said, hey, I have these seizures, I have these meds, maybe we should get a new neurologist and look into this. And I started having moments and didn't realize that those moments are unacceptable if you're going to be driving because you never know what would trigger a seizure. And I was driving home from work and my daughter had to go out of town. And I had my granddaughter with me, who is incidentally around the same age as her mother when her father passed. And we were driving home, and all I remember is red lights flashing and then standing on the side of the freeway. It was 12:30 in the morning. And thank goodness Charlotte did not get a scratch on her, but I was pretty banged up. And I couldn't see because I lost my glasses. And I just remember seeing the car upside down out on the freeway and, you know, police lights. And uh, God bless the people who got us out of the car and got all our stuff out of the car, my computer, my purse, everything that I needed. I was, you know, amazed. And we went to the hospital and they did a body scan and everything was okay. But the reality was the next day when that night I had to call her mother. Her mother literally had just got to the East Coast, unpacked, had to pack up, get back on a plane, and come home because her mother and her daughter had been through a horrific accident. It's a miracle, honestly, that
It
we both
really is.
lived. It
Yeah.
really is because Jane, because
Yes.
you took me to the tow yard the next day, and neither one of us realized which car it was until when the girl, remember the girl said, "Were you driving that car?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh." And then
Yeah.
she opened the gate and you said, "Where's your car?" And I looked forward and I said, "Oh, Jane, that's my car." And we just both started sobbing.
Yeah.
It was a miracle when you see
Yeah.
those pictures that
Yeah.
somebody didn't really spend time in a hospital after that.
Yeah. Spent
But
time in the hospital in a morgue.
yeah, exactly.
Literally, I think she was amazed that this woman was standing in front of her. She's like,
Yes.
you know, that's just amazing. Okay, so we don't need to relive that. That was just
Yeah.
thank God you're here and you're on my show today, right?
Yes.
And you're in this room, not in the
Yeah.
next room, because then I would be really pissed off at you because I like you a lot and I don't want you going anywhere. Um,
Nope, I'm here.
Good. What is your takeaway as we get ready to wrap up the show today? What are your top takeaways from these life experiences that brought you to here? And most recently, going through a horrific accident and walking away. And thank God your granddaughter, your beautiful Charlotte, literally not a scratch on her. It still gives me goosebumps after seeing the car. And then I saw Charlotte the next day and I'm like, she doesn't even have a hair out of place. It's like it's like her guardian
Yeah.
angels were wrapped around her and just like, we got you, you're okay, boom, you're right there. Other than maybe what it did to her, psyche, which she'll get some help for that.
Yeah.
What is the Kelly Cole takeaway from this experience?
Wow. Um, just the simple fact that every moment you have that you get to enjoy and share with friends and family is a moment to cherish. And when things start getting tough and you start getting upset and then you start taking it out on other people, you need to back up and realize if that's the last thing you said to that person, is that what you want it to be? Because you never know when the last thing you say to someone might be the last thing you ever have to say to them.
Wow.
And you really need to make sure that you're on the positive side of life and not walking around grumbling about all the things and problems you have. Everyone has problems. We all have problems. We could all use a little help. But boy, if you put a smile on somebody's face, you just helped so much more with their world and your world than if you leave somebody with a bad feeling. And it could be a bad text you left somebody, it could be a bad
Email?
email, it could be just a closing statement from a phone call. It should always be something you would want to have a good feeling leaving them
Kelly, Kelly, Kelly Cole.
with.
You're making me cry. Normally, I make people cry. I will leave you with this. You are a remarkably strong, resilient, wonderful human being. And I absolutely love you and I cherish our friendship. And I'm telling you what, this show is really going to resonate. Um, wow. You just stripped it down and you shared and bared your soul. And I'm very, very grateful that you would do that and come on the next room.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your friendship and your inspiration, Jane Asher. You are truly one of the reasons and one of the people who make me want to keep going and make me want to keep doing it.
Right on. So if the Next Room listeners and fan base want to follow you and encourage you for Lights Out with Kelly Cole, um, what's the best place? Do you have a page on Facebook they can follow you? And I can put links down. Um, where would you like my audience to connect with you
Well,
and support you?
I'm so crazy right now because everything was with Cox.net. Now it's been transferred to Yahoo.
Yahoo!
And also, my Facebook page probably would be the best.
Okay. Okay. All right, good. We'll do
Yeah.
that because you do have a page for your professional side as well
Yes.
as, yeah, let's do that.
And I can't even figure out how to get back to my original because they were all connected and now
Yeah.
everything's so messed up. So the one thing I am connected to is my professional Kelly Cole page.
Okay. Well,
We'll
good.
put that link
Yeah,
up.
I'll put that link in there for you. Um, Thank you very much for joining me on the next room. My guest, as you can hear, has really imparted some great wisdom on all of us today about getting our affairs in order, about leaving that lasting moment with whomever, to have it be based in kindness and compassion and love. Because who doesn't have problems? Holy cow. I mean, I always try to put things in perspective all the time, like every day, if something's out of alignment with our home or what we're going through. And then I just stop myself and like, stop whining. You have a toilet that flushes. You've got hot and cold water.
Yep.
You have blankets, and man, legs that carry you around the neighborhood with your dog. I mean, I just start going down the whole list anytime I start having a pity party, as my sister Lynn loved to call it. All righty. Kelly Cole, my guest today on the next room. As you know, now you can love her like I love her. And I will put the link to follow her so that when Lights Out kicks off and she is doing an international show and playing the music that she loves, that she's passionate, that she broke and won the Marconi Award with, you will be able to support her there as well. Thanks again for tuning in to the next room. And like I like to always say, if you can be anything on the planet, please be kind. Thanks again for tuning in. Oh, this usually helps.